For me, Hawthorne's the perfect place. You know, I had the lake right here, I had the mountains I could go cruising around in, had a river right over the hill. I couldn't ask for a better place.
The local people would go out and we'd ski in the summertime and fish in the wintertime on it. And we used the lake a whole lot.
There was tons of recreation going on at the lake. We used to have boat races. We used to have the Liars boat race. It'd be a 4th of July celebration. The fish derbies used to bring people in from all over the place. I mean, there would be tons of boats out on this lake during the fish derbies. As the lake has declined, then those things have declined as well.
For 26 years in total that I was directly working with Walker Lake. We had been struggling in acclimating fish to put into Walker Lake. The average size of the fish was going down on an annual basis.
The fisheries biologists started taking them back, trying to figure out why we were losing them, and they were coming up that we were having salinity problems and oxygen problems with the fish.
Loons migrating each year stop at Walker Lake to feed on the tui chub, which were just of the right size and located at the right depth in the water so they could fuel up. When we first started censoring the loon populations in the 1980s, we were counting over 300 loons here each year. And that number has declined to just a little over a couple dozen.
So Walker Lake has been in a state of rapid decline, really beginning in the 1850s when the Walker Basin was first settled. That was when water began to be diverted out of the river for agricultural purposes. With the ongoing lake level decline, we've seen the salinity continue to increase to the point that the lake no longer supports the native Lahontan cutthroat trout, and the loons no longer stop over during fall migration. So the Walker Basin Restoration Program is working very hard at acquiring water from willing sellers, both formal acquisitions and also through water leasing, to protect a portion of the water back in stream for Walker Lake. In addition, to accomplish that, we have a lot of partners upstream that we work with, including in the ag community, trying to keep ag intact while reducing the overall water footprint. We have a strong conservation and stewardship program upstream to revegetate retired farmland while also conserving kind of the ag corridor. Early on, we opened a local office in Yerington. We really focused on trying to hire locals to help us not only with outreach, but also help make sure that the program is focused on the right things in the Mason and Smith Valley.
What attracted me to the valley in the first place, besides just the job with the Department of Wildlife, was the natural resources of the valley, and the Walker Basin is just a gem.
The first that I heard about the program, I thought it was going to be very, very difficult, but it was definitely something worth attempting to do.
When I took over as county manager in 2010, the Board of County Commissioners pretty much hated the Walker River Restoration Program. They had no desire to see anything change. They liked things the way they were. And we pushed very hard to have NIFWIF consider putting somebody from the county on the Stewardship Council so we could at least know what's going on and have conversations to get things moving forward. That was probably the most positive thing, because it became from us being an adversary to being an ally on most issues, and having a better understanding of what was going on with the water, realizing that it's not just disappearing and we have a big dust bowl in Mason Valley. It's forced the local community, the ag community specifically, to take a look at how to better use water, better water conservation projects. They're looking at different crops. Instead of just having acres upon acres of flood irrigated alfalfa, what else can we grow that's more environmentally friendly, that we can make money off?
When we moved here in '79, our first crop here was in 1980. We planted 90 acres of onions. It's all stuff that we're peddling here locally in northern Nevada. My biggest interest, obviously, is ag. That's what I live, breathe to do. That's what my life is. If there's an opportunity to try something in ag, especially veg, I'm a veg grower. I like to grow vegetables. I'll give it a whirl and give it 100% and work day and night. The pilot project with National Fish and Wildlife had a component when the bill was written that they need to do a sustainable agriculture component, and we We purchased roughly 360 acres from them with water rights, and you know, we had to purchase it at what they paid for it. Our job is to generate as many jobs as we possibly can on that 360 acres. The plan is that particular piece to stay strictly in veg. So right now it's in onions. We'll be in onions for the next couple of years. We're farming it organically. I felt that that was an opportunity not only for ourselves and our companies, but it was an opportunity for NIFWIF also to do this sustainable agriculture component. I think everyone's initial concerns were probably mostly from a political standpoint, that the big politicians rounded up a bunch of money. It's going to come in, they're just going to basically take the water for whatever they're wanting to pay, and we're going to end up with a dust bowl here. And I think the majority of it, in my opinion, was real lack of information and communication. Since National Fish and Wildlife's taken it over, they've been real good about open dialogue. If anybody's got questions, answering, you know, what they're doing, what their plan is, what the re-veg plan is to sustain the core of the valley.
It's also brought in the city of Arlington, Lyon County to take a look at what we're doing with the river. When I was a young man in high school, cleaning the river was a weekend in October where everybody got their dozers out. We just went in and cleaned the silt out, and we were done. We can no longer do that, so now we're looking at more creative ways of how do we do that.
So right now we're standing at the Yerington Weir, which is the last major diversion on the system, on the Walker system, prior to getting down to the Walker River Paiute Reservation. The Walker Basin Restoration Program has acquired over 20 cubic feet per second of natural flow decree water off of this weir. It is also an impoundment on the system that doesn't allow for fish passage. Over time, we're hoping that we can work with the ditch companies served off the weir to help redesign it so it continues to serve the main purpose, which is making sure that the farmers are getting their water rates, but also allows for a more natural river corridor through this area and addresses the fish passage and sediment issues.
People have a real hard time with people selling their water rights. But people are working through that. They've seen in the valley the restoration projects that have gone in some of the areas where water's been stripped off, and now you have natural vegetation growing there.
My grandfather came into Mason Valley back in like 1931. This is just one of 3 ranches that we had at the time, and I acquired this end of the ranch. I used to keep about 200 head of cattle in here, and then I farmed like 240 acres of alfalfa on the other. I would graze. The cows would be out here and the calves would be out here. It was just beautiful out here, you know. I pretty much did it all myself. I worked hard at it. It was a lot of work. We first just talked about moving the water off of the place, and I thought, well, I could probably run a few cows in here and pay the taxes and make a little bit of money. And then they got with the fishing game, and they started talking together, and then they decided that they wanted the whole place, not just the water rights. And when I heard that, I thought the worries that I was going to have without the water to make a living off this property have gone away. I was going to do just as well selling it as I could farming it. My son, he's going to be an architect. He's going to grad school right now, so he didn't want it. My daughter didn't really want it. And every drop of water that goes out of the valley is going to affect every other farmer down the ditch, in the system, in a number of ways. And they're working on a stipulation that they're going to leave some of the water back to protect the farmers that have stayed and that have not sold out. And they were extremely generous on that end of it. And I think the farmers that are my neighbors and stuff are all going to be happy. They're going to be protected. They're not going to be influenced by the water leaving this part of the valley.
To protect the water in stream to Walker Lake goes through a legal process with the state engineer and the decree court. We filed an application, and there were a number of formal opposition to the application in the form of protests that were filed by a variety of parties. We worked very hard in negotiations with the individuals who filed protests, as well as the irrigation district and the Walker River Paiute tribe. and we're able to come to a resolution with both the irrigation district, the tribe, and the majority of the other parties involved.
I've working for the tribe now for, I think about 20 years now. Been involved with the water rights since during most of my time. As a kid, I would kind of lose interest in fishing. I'd rather play on the ice than actually fish. Coming down here today to see the lake just receding and the river's just a trickle in there now. And like I said, there used to be just seemed like a steady flow. Going into the conveyance agreement, I mean, there was, like everything else in this basin, if some sort of agreement wasn't reached, a judge would have to make it for us. So that was a real motivation to see if we can work it out with, us and NIFWIF and the BIA. So I think we finally got something that was simple enough and understandable enough, but yet it protected everybody's interest. I think it'll take time, but we changed before. I think we can adapt to that. We're working to save the lake and all the system. Trying to balance all of it. I do see that there is some give and some willingness to give and take to try to get water all the way through the system and down to the lake here, so we can save it for the future, so our kids could experience what we experience, because that's what they don't have right now.
In some instances, our program has acquired both land and water. We don't necessarily want to hold on to land long term, and so a few of the ranches we acquired were adjacent to the local Mason Valley Wildlife Management Area, which is owned by the state of Nevada. So we donated those properties to the state of Nevada. They were annexed and added to the Mason Valley Wildlife Management Area. They increase opportunities for hunting, fishing, hiking, horseback riding, and just general public access to the river, which in northern Nevada, there's not a whole lot of riparian corridor that's open to the public.
There's just a whole bunch of opportunity out here for recreational activities for both myself and my family. The primary reason why we bought the secondary residence here is quite obviously is the public access here for the kids and the family. We've been here for approximately a year and a half, and we have so many memories already, both between my son, daughter, and my wife. Open space is extremely valuable to our family. It helps us bond. It gets us out of the house. I've got two little kids that look forward to waking up and recreate on public access properties. We don't have to go and knock on a door to go have access. Now that everybody has access to it, I think it's a good thing.
It's no legacy to restore Walker Lake just to make a mess upstream. That's not what the foundation wants to do. So we're working very hard on kind of looking at the whole picture and trying to readdress that.
Take the politics out of it, you look at what reality is. The valley's in better shape today than it was 10 years ago.
Standing here today, it looks like to me that they're planning on trying to be here and do the right thing for the long haul.
I think it'll provide countless opportunities for a whole bunch of different people across the board.
I hope in my lifetime that I see it back as a viable fishery. I can see hope on the horizon that we're going to get to see it turn around and start having fish back in it.
I think it's savable. The lake is it's a wonderful resource. It warms my heart to know that this much progress is being made.
As long as we're moving forward, people are working together to try to save this thing before it's completely gone, then we're making progress.